Okay, so we're going to look at how do we take the steps from an art recording and get them over into Quality Center. Before I show you the process within art, I would just want to walk through Quality Center just a little bit. What you see here, this is Quality Center. This is going to be Quality Center version 11. If it was version 11.5, it would probably say Application Lifecycle Management, or ALM. But they're going to function the same way for the purposes of this demonstration and how do we export from Excel into Quality Center. So what we're going to do is, you can see this is Quality Center. There's going to be all of the modules that you may hear talked about on calls, you know, the requirements that the business analysts use to enter requirements, testing that our testers use to create tests. And what we're really going to be focused on is this test plan lab. Now there's really two types of tests that the testers are going to run. They're going to run manual tests, and that's where they'll actually go through and do the clicks of the exercise and walk through and test a process and see how it works. And then there's also automated tests. Automated tests will be run with a tool will be created with a tool like QTP, and those tests run on their own. But really what we want to focus on is a manual test in Quality Center. And why it's a big deal within art to be able to have the content in Excel and then export into Quality Center. It can be a tedious process to create manual tests in Quality Center. So, you know, you have to create them step by step. You have to manually enter the steps. If I took a look at a test that's in here now, you can see here, if I look at the design steps, right, every single one of these steps would need to be entered and created one at a time within the Quality Center tool. When we get the content into Excel from art, we can export it from Excel and get it right over into Quality Center as a test, and I'm going to show you that in a second. I want to also show you these fields that are highlighted in red. Those are what are called required fields. So when we do the export, we're going to have to make sure those fields are filled in. The type is a required field of the test, but when it's imported, it's assumed to be a manual test, so that does not have to be part of the spreadsheet. But what does need to be part of the spreadsheet that we fill in is what's called the subject. And you see the subject here, and all of these folders that are underneath the subject folder, they're referred to as subject folders. So when you see the word subject in the Excel spreadsheet that Art creates, that's what it's referring to, is this folder name. And this will need to be filled in because our Quality Center is going to need a place to store the test. So it needs to know the folder name basically to put the test into. So what I'm going to do is hit the refresh button within Quality Center to show you all of the folders right now that are part of this particular test plan module in this project of Quality Center. And I'm going to go over into Art. And what we want to do within Art is, I've already taken the liberty of creating a spreadsheet with a few steps that we've recorded. So let me go ahead and open the spreadsheet. So you can see these steps in here. The test name is Create Test in QC01. That's important because you'll see that when we go back over into Quality Center, this will have been created in Quality Center. The subject, this is what I referred to. You'll see how it comes over from Art. It's blank. This has to be filled in for the export to work. If it's not filled in, you'll get an error message during the export process, and I'll show you that right now. So what happens is you have to highlight in Excel all of the data that you want to export to Quality Center. So once it's exported, once it's highlighted, what you do is you go to the add-ins, you go to Export to HP, ALM, and then you go through these steps. So you enter the URL of the Quality Center implementation. You put in your login credentials. I'll do that now. And then what it's going to do is it's going to have us say which project do we want to export this test into. And this is the project we were just looking at. It was in the domain in Quality Center called default, and then the project was Quality Center _ demo. We want to do tests because from this process you can export requirements, tests, and defects, but we're going to do tests. What you want to do when you do this is we're going to create a map. and so you end up mapping the fields. So if I wanted to call this my test map here, so what you do is you find the fields, and then you tell which column it's in. So the subject is A, test name is B, and so on. I'll fill in the rest of them. Expected results, you could actually manually go in and fill those in the spreadsheet, but they currently are not filled in from ART. And then the attachment, you want to make sure you select the attachment for the design step. That's going to be in column F. So once you have the map done, you can do export. And what happens is it's going to tell me that I don't have the subject value. That's required. So this is a common issue that's going to come up if our customers try to export from Excel to Quality Center, if they take the content from ART and they don't actually fill in this subject, or they don't fill in any other field that might be required when they go in and create tests within their project. So any field that's required in their Quality Center project will have to make sure it's present here in the spreadsheet. So what we need to do is go back, and I'll just create a subject folder. So what we're going to call this is we're going to call this our ART test folder. And what you're going to see is in Quality Center, there is now going to be a subject folder that's called ART test folder. And inside that ART test folder is going to be a test called Create Test in QC01. So what we'll do is highlight the data again, go to our export, and what's good is when you go through this process, you still do need to authenticate. You need to select your project, but it saved the map. So that mapping that I just did, mapping subject to A, test name to B, and so forth, it's saved. So I don't really need to map it again manually. If something changes, you can map it and give it a new name. But you can see the map's still here. So now I'm going to do export. And since the subject field is filled in, the export should be successful. So we'll go ahead and let this finish. And then what we're going to do is take a look at Quality Center. We're going to have to hit the refresh button within Quality Center, and we should see our folder created, or the subject created, and then the test inside of that folder. So back in Quality Center, we hit the refresh, expand the subject folder. You'll see here's our ART test folder. When we expand that, we'll see our Create Test in QC01 test that we had created from ART. You'll see that the test name is filled in here. The design steps, these represent all of the steps that were in the Excel file that we exported.